Happy Thursday. We are back. It is Perfectly Holistic, and I am Pam, and this is Dr. Amaya Espindola from Spain.
Hello.
I'm
How are
so
you?
excited to have you here. How are you
I'm
today?
excited to be here as well.
We got together a while back and said, you know what, we really need to talk about this whole process, pet food.
Mhm.
We see so many issues with clients and health issues. So we're going to kind of dive into all of that today. We're going to talk about what's in it, how it's made. We're going to talk about health conditions that cats develop because of this, what they're eating. And then we're going to talk about a little bit of fresh food and raw, because I think that's a nice little segue into how can we do better. So Dr. Maya, thank you so much. And then just tell our
Thank
viewers,
you.
for those who do not know you already, how awesome you are. Tell us just a little bit about
Oh,
you and what brings you to this little tribe we live in.
okay. Well, I'm a veterinarian. I'm a cat specialist. I actually studied everything in Argentina because that's where I was born. And then I moved like 9 years ago to Spain. And now I started working with raw feeding because I was working a lot in shelters and cats, animal protection services.
Mm-hmm.
And there I found out, the what issues animals have due to this processed food, and actually low quality processed food. That's the
Yeah.
kind of thing you get in animal protection services, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I met someone that she was involved in raw feeding, and it was like, what, raw feeding? It is against everything I've studied there, right? And then I got
Yep.
studying into that, and well, I became I did a master in nutrition, veterinary nutrition, which didn't tell me much about raw feeding, but it actually taught me how to measure things, macro, micronutrients, and
Mm.
everything, right? And then I combined everything. That's how Velvet actually was born, with a little bit of self growth, and those that path that you go to actually have a better bond with your cat. That is a bond that also it's related with nutrition and behavior. So I just mixed it all in, and that's how Velvet was born.
Well, and that's kind of how life really rolls, you know. It's not just
Exactly.
it's a hodgepodge, you know. We just kind of piece things together, and then you have this outcome, this beautiful outcome.
Yes, I love it. I love it, and I love holistic medicine. It also gives you much, like much broad a spectrum of things that what you can treat things with. You can be creative. You can
Yeah.
just give some art into medicine, which is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and every cat is unique, and that we have to be if we think that cats are unique, that's the thing. We cannot give the same food to every single cat and think about kidneys or bladders. No, no, we have to think about the individual, and processed food does not fit in there.
Right. I'm glad you said that, because I truly believe that in the work that I do, it's not a one size fits all. You know, it cats just like humans, our bodies are so unique. And what one modality or treatment or medication that works for one cat doesn't mean it's going to work for all the cats. So you have to look at each cat individually as a unique soul to see what resonates with their body and their genetics, sometimes their chemistry, whatever it might be, their situation, their environment. And
The
then you have
environment.
to customize all of that for that particular individual. So I love that.
Yes, and also you can, because there's a new trend now that everyone is feeding raw, right? Everyone is like, getting into raw, but also they keep doing this thing of having a recipe that fits all. And it's
Mhm,
good to
mhm,
start. This
mhm.
is a good starting point, but then you have to think about not just this supplement is great. No, you have to think what your cat needs,
Yep.
specifically for your cat.
Yeah.
And actually it's a way of thinking. It's not about food. It can be also related to behavior and how you approach everything. You have to
Mhm.
about this individuality, that it is in a bigger thing, right? We are all connected, but
Mhm.
always have to, think about this individual that you're
Mhm.
having there with you.
No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And even when it comes to raw diets, there are some cats that I work on that raw is not really beneficial for them for various reasons. You know, it might be either a disease state, it might be age or something. They just can't process that. They can't digest it very well. So as much as I would love all cats to be on raw diet, at some point there might be one or two that just like it just doesn't work well for them. So we have to switch to something maybe like a freeze dried, something gently cooked or something like that that works with their body system. We have to
Mhm.
meet them where they are. That's important.
Mhm.
Um, so let's dive into this whole processed pet food. When did
Great.
you first of all, I'm gonna just go on record and say I used to do this. I used to feed my cat dry food because that is what I grew up seeing my parents feed our cats. So I thought that that was the norm. I thought that was healthy. You buy it at the grocery store like you buy your food. So of course that's where you assume that your food is good and what you're buying is quality. um, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Exactly.
You know, so I did it all wrong. So there is no judgment here today from anybody, from me, from Dr. Maya. We used to do
I,
this. So
I I
we
used to
learned.
recommend kibble, and I was saying, because I finished school, and
Hmm.
all I had in my hand was, I knew how to feed cows, because we actually learn a lot about nutrition in cows. But then when it's about cats and dogs, then it's like, oh, this bag or this bag or
Right.
this bag. So it's from education. I was suggesting kibble, and then I thought into the ingredients of kibble.
Hmm.
I'm such an expert now that, I'm reading about kibble, no grains or whatever.
Right.
And then, and then when you keep studying, it's like, okay, I did it all wrong. So no, there's no judgment here.
No, and even when I was on my holistic journey, this transitioning from the conventional mindset to more of a holistic natural approach mindset, I was still thinking that the high qual what I will quote, air quote, high quality organic processed pet food was better than, other processed pet food. But at the end of the day, what I learned is it's all metabolized the same way and it has the same glycation end products, no matter if it's organic or not organic. I mean, you just can't get around the fact that it's just kind of the same.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's
There
a
was no
process.
better at the end of the day when you really dive in and you learn what it's really all made of and all of that. So, oh my gosh. So I thought I was doing a good thing for feeding the high quality, expensive, organic processed pet food. No. My cat still died from kidney disease. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I lost it took me 3 losing 3 cats to kidney disease before I finally made the switch and said I remember coming home from the vet with the cat that we had to put down, and, like, something flipped in my head that day, and I came home, and I first thing I did was I went to the pantry, and I pulled out the kibble bag, and I threw it in the trash, and I said, "I'm done with this. I'm done." I've seen how decimated the cats end up being, how skinny and how just
Yeah.
this the whole issue of kidney disease is not easy on the eyes. It's horrible to see a cat go through that and to know that what I was feeding them all those years, thinking I was doing a good thing, was really harming them. Um, but again, it took me 3 cats to figure that out. What's wrong with that? It's like,
No, but
what
it's
took me so
normal, because
long to connect the dots?
whatever you ask, I mean, it doesn't matter who you ask. They're gonna tell you that that's the only solution, and that's
Mhm.
the thing. That's why I wanted to get away from that conventional medicine, because it was, this is all you can do. You have to give that. I hear all the time people coming to me and say, they're telling me that there's no hope with my cat, that I should just put it down because the creatinine levels are high, and
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, what are the symptoms? no, well, she's okay, but she's a bit dehydrated. And I said, and the vet didn't do anything. They said no, because they thought it was pointless. And I'm just like thinking here, pointless? Shouldn't the guardian think when it's pointless to do something? Who's the
Hmm.
vet to actually make that decision for you and
It's
actually tell you that, whatever, if he's gonna die, just leave it there. It's like, it's terrible.
I
I
had a client just the other day tell me that
really.
she took her cat to the vet because it had stopped wanting to eat, and um, she couldn't figure out what was going on, and she had been feeding raw diet for a very long time. And it's a new client. I haven't even dove in to see what's going on yet, but the vet said did blood work and said, "Oh, he's in kidney failure, and you might as well just put the cat down." And she was it just shocked her to no end, and she was just so frustrated and just like, upset that the vet would even suggest such a thing. And so thank goodness she had the mindset to say, "You know what? I'm not doing that. I'm going to go home." She was telling me on the blood work that I said, "What were the kidney values? What were they?" Can I tell you, they were just slightly elevated, slightly out of the normal range.
Eating raw.
Eating a raw diet. And he's like, "Well, see where that raw diet got you?" I'm like, that is so myopic of an approach because your cat had been eating raw diets for a long time, for years. You can't blame this on a raw diet.
And the references, I mean, there's already a study that says the references that you can use are based on animals that have been fed kibble all this time, so we
Mm,
cannot actually use those reference now. And
second.
the same thing happens with cholesterol levels or
Mm,
any other levels. It's going to be different,
yeah.
but we need to rethink the way we see these values. Cholesterol is needed, for example, to actually create hormones
Yes.
and to ease pain. So the thing is, we need to rethink how it's used, and we need to rethink the reference that we have to
Yep.
say, is it slightly elevated? It could be 20% elevated, and it could be normal, because we don't know, we don't have the values of a raw feeding cat or many raw fed cats. And that's a problem, because we not have to a little bit of guessing or maybe actually looking at the symptoms. But if you're just
Hmm.
taking, first of all, I don't think any vet should suggest that you should put your cat down if you don't have, I mean, if you just didn't try everything else that you have on hand.
Right.
And that's the first thing. And then it shouldn't be just imposed, it should be just suggested. And there is a thing in our veterinary community, is that we are taught to be so fast to, to diagnose and "No, this is not going to work." Yes, of course, kidney disease has no cure. It's going to be long, it's going to be exhausting and everything. But then,
Hmm.
okay, what do you my first question is always, what do you want to do? Because yes, this doesn't look good, this looks better, but we never know, we have no idea. Do you want to try? Do you want to do something about this? And after that, you can make a decision. But
Hmm.
there's something going on with veterinarians that it frustrates me as well, because I think people don't have anyone to rely on once that happened.
It's
And yes,
true.
we have now more therapists or other people that say, "Hey, come on, let's try an holistic approach." Yes,
Right.
of course. But how many actually reach to that? How many
Hmm.
are available there for everyone? So
Yeah.
if a vet is watching, please just the message, stop suggesting
Right.
down
Right.
cats.
Because we have to look at the overall energy and the behavior and the mood of the cat, and everything else was kind of normal, except that the person had had a lot of stress and a lot of emotional toil in the recent months. And it started about that same time that the cat started not wanting to eat. And I said, it's a possibility that it's emotional. It just blew my mind, number one, and we are off topic, but yeah, she was totally, like, devastated, and I rightfully so. It's like, oh, I just
And,
really feel like they don't have the
and
tools. They don't know what to do.
and getting into raw, I mean, saying that look what raw got you is like, why are you judging?
Mhm.
Okay,
Obviously, they know
nobody.
nothing.
It's, it's not your place. I mean, you're the doctor. Yes, but it's not your place to be judging. You know,
Mhm.
what are you doing with raw? That's so, like you said, narrow-minded. So so
Right.
short-sighted.
It's frustrating. It's
Yeah.
frustrating. So the people that are watching this particular episode today and who
Hmm.
will watch this recording, we want to give you some hardcore information, some factual information about processed pet food and what it's really all about. And I think once you take a close look at what it is, how it's made, what's in it, all these things, you're probably going to think twice. My hope, our passion is that you will think twice about wanting to feed this food to your cats and going forward because I was on a call yesterday with a client and she was reading me the ingredients on the label that she was looking at and she came across a couple things and I said, "Do you know what that is?" And she said powdered cellulose. And I said, "Do you know what that is?" And she goes, "No." I said, "That's sawdust." And she almost vomited. You know, oh my God, give me my cat sawdust. I mean, that's when you start to dive into the ingredients, you just can't even believe that they are even in the food. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yes,
just, it's disgusting. It really is.
it is disgusting.
Yeah.
And the first thing that actually it took me a while also, but my first impression about kibble was that I was looking in the supermarket and I was, going down all aisles, and then I found that near to the cleaning products,
Mm,
you would find the kibble,
cat
the processed
food.
food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one day I asked, why is it that processed food is next to the cleaning products? And they said, oh no, because they have to separate food from cleaning products. And I was like, okay, but isn't this food? It's for my pet, yes, but isn't this food? That was my question.
Right.
And he said, oh, well, but this is processed, is in a bag, it's for pets. He was like, just,
Right.
and it got me thinking, that stood there for a while. And I was
Mm,
like, this is
mm.
food. Yes, of course. This is next to a cleaning product that could be bleach or it
Yeah.
could be anything else. And then once you dive into this, you find that there's a different there are different laws for food manufacturing and feed manufacture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what it's not allowed in food, it's allowed in feed. And then
Right.
you find out, but this goes in a very extensive way, because also what you feed to the cows, what you feed to the animals in general, all the livestock, all the
Mm-hmm.
production animals that we have, all those are fed with feed.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be very careful what we do, because you can find there plastic. You can find, it's not just about reading the ingredients, it's where those ingredients come
Come
from.
from. Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah.
where the corn comes from, that it has, there's been a lot of issues. And then the other thing that we have to understand here is that when this product started being popular, because this was due to a war,
Mm-hmm.
economical crisis, animals, there wasn't enough food for humans, so they decided to switch it to something. So this was all prepared into getting, said, okay, let's put this into the dogs and it's cheaper, we can do it, whatever. And then they just kept doing the same thing and branded in a better way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there is there's no evidence that this is good. Was practical.
It was created for convenience and to
Exactly.
and to find a use for all of the leftover from the human grade, like the what we would eat industry, to find a use for all the leftovers. because it was just mounds of waste. And we're like, what are we going to do with all this stuff? And somebody said,
Mm-hmm.
I got an idea. Let's give it to the farm animals, and that's basically what they did. That's why it's considered feed, not food, because it's not for human consumption, guys. This is not food that would pass inspection for you and I to eat. And so
Exactly.
the pet food industry accepts food from sources like dead animals, yes, even roadkill, euthanized animals, euthanized livestock, dead livestock. It accepts food from diseased and dying animals. It from the 4D meats, your dead, dying, diseased, or even disabled animals. They will use all of that in processed pet food, and send it to a rendering plant.
Yes. And the
And
new
so,
one that I found is that now when you buy this pack of yogurt, for example, it comes with like 6 pack or something that you
mhm,
you buy this plastic and okay, the product goes wrong, bad, and
yes,
then you throw it away. They
hmm,
don't open the product and put they just leave it all with the plastic and all
yes,
it's renderized.
yep,
So imagine you're giving amounts of plastic and toxins,
hmm.
and
There's
this is
no,
just there's it's unbelievable. It's
I
like,
know.
what are you
It's
doing?
totally angry. So let's think about that. So they take the expired food from the grocery store in the cellophane, styrofoam packages, bread, whatever it is, expired bakery products, expired anything, and they throw all of this into the big rendering pots. And let's talk about what a rendering facility is. Number one, it's where they think of it as a huge vat, and they put all this discarded waste, um, products,
Hmm.
animal products, dead animal carcasses, everything. And they make like this big soup. They heat it up and it's stirred and stirred at really, really, really high temperatures, because you got to kill all the toxins and all the bacteria. God knows what else is in that. And,
Sometimes I use chemicals
and
also
they,
to.
yeah, because you've got styrofoam, you've got plastics, they've got, God forbid you bite into something and there's a piece of plastic, so they got to heat it all up so it kind of melts,
It's,
big soup, and then they
it's so
put it through
disgusting.
these extruders. They put it through the little extruders that make the cute little shapes,
Yeah.
and then they heat it dry, and then they spray it with a bunch of fats and chemicals for taste enhancers, or
Yes.
how we call palliatives, because guaranteed your pet would not even touch that food without it, because they know that that's not something that's tasty or good for them. It would have zero appeal. So they cover
Hmm.
it with all these chemicals to make it taste better, and fats. And that is the only reason why your pet would even eat the food to begin with. So that is rendered processed pet food. Um, it is scary what they put in those things.
Yes.
They have to use enormous amounts of preservatives, and because you're looking at stuff that has to sit on a shelf for years, potentially years, and then when you open that bag, that's when your clock starts ticking, because the fats in that processed pet food will start to become rancid. And typically within 3 to 4 weeks, that food is rancid,
Yeah.
and you should not, it's toxic. And if you've ever opened a bag of cat food, you smell the smell of chemicals. Even walking down a pet food store aisle, you can smell there's a pet food smell to
Yes.
dry food. Is gross. Imagine just that on steroids after the bag is open for several weeks. It becomes more rancid, and so it's just nasty. It's a toxic soup. Just,
Hmm.
you know.
And not only that, I mean, it is toxic, and also, well, you can preserve it a little better, and if you keep it in the fridge or the
Mhm.
freezer,
Mhm.
uh, if you don't buy huge bags,
Yeah.
those are, if you cannot afford the raw diet, there are options. There are better options still, but if you have that, just put it in the freezer and keep it there.
Mhm.
Still, it's not going to last too
No.
much, but anyway, it's better. And the fats, also, when they become rancid, they become pro-inflammatory. And this is despite also it's toxic, the toxins that you get in there, but it's pro-inflammatory, and that's an issue that causes
Mhm.
most of the damage that we have. um, there's a website really good, that's Truth About Pet Food, that if you want to read, if you want to see disgusting videos, it's
Oh,
amazing.
yes. Susan
Uh,
Dixon does amazing job. I'm gonna type it in the comments here, so you
yes.
guys go check about truth about pet food, um, online. Just I think it's truthaboutpetfood.com. Susan is she is a hardcore pet advocate, pet parent advocate. She's working hard in the pet food industry to get laws changed, to get more transparency and law enforcement for pet food, and better quality ingredients, and just things labeled and just transparency, which there is almost zero required, you know?
And the funny thing about all this is that we haven't got into the ingredients yet.
I know.
We're just talking about how it's
How
preserved, the
how does
bag.
that sound so far now that you guys know kind of where the background is? And, I used to think because it had cranberries and blueberries and, you know,
Oh yes.
fresh vegetables and fruits in there, I thought, "Oh, this is really good," but you guys, when you look at the label, the guaranteed analysis, it lists the ingredients in order by volume, by dry matter. So there's a reason all those fruits and vegetables are at the very end. It's probably less than 3% of the bag in most cases.
Yes.
So there's really not probably a whole lot of nutritional value by such a small quantity. That's why they have the whole list of synthetic preservatives to meet all the nutritional requirements in the food to begin with. So,
And then the other thing about preserving the kibble is that if you leave the bag not very well
mm,
closed,
mhm,
um, you can have mites. So allergies,
mhm,
they don't necessarily have to come from the protein. It can
yes,
come, you can have environmental allergy,
mm,
and usually it's due to processed food as well. So we have another thing there that we have to consider. So there's so many things, and when you're saying about this small amount of vegetables and then full of preservatives, or maybe the added vitamins, the added
mhm,
minerals that this product needs, it's also all synthetic,
mhm,
and it's not the same. And this goes also for supplements. When you use supplements, it's not the same to add a natural supplement that provides this, uh, and a synthetic one. It's not going to be absorbed the same way, can cause different damages that we don't know. So then we are always fixing what we already been doing wrong when we do this prescription food, the prescription diets that we give when we have kidney disease or anyone cystitis or whatever. So we are trying to fix what we already been doing wrong with the normal ones, and we keep doing patches all the time, just putting one here, another one here, just putting down some fires, and we can do it better than that.
mhm. Exactly. Talk a little bit about the glycation end products from the high heat processing, because most people don't even know what that is. It's not going to be labeled on the package.
Yes, it's not gonna. Actually, you don't. We are not even aware that
Mm-mm.
we eat a lot of those products every day. And
Mhm.
as an Argentinian, there's a product that it's full of that, which is the dulce de leche, that we love a lot.
Mhm.
That's the major Maillard reaction product that you have, because it is
Yes.
sugar with milk. There's nothing worse than that. It's delicious anyway, but
Mhm.
but all that little thing that we love, the burning, uh, when you have
Like,
this toast, the crusty,
yes.
when it's burned a little bit, that toasty feeling, the when you do the same thing with the meat, with everything, that is the Maillard reaction. Is that brownie, sweetie kind of thing that tastes
Mhm.
better, that we love. And those things actually produce this glycation end products
Glycation end products. Mhm.
that are actually um, really, really bad. They can cause cancer. They can, well, they are toxic. They can actually cause many different issues in the gut, but particularly they promote cancer. That's
Mhm.
one of the biggest things that they do. So uh, we should minimize ourselves consuming those type of foods, but at the same time, imagine how a processed, so cooked a food that it's so processed, that
Mhm.
imagine that's full of that, and
Mhm.
you're giving it every day in a big amount. So of
Mhm.
course cancer has grown in our pets today. That's one of the reasons also. We just, we keep describing things and just keep adding things up,
Mhm.
right, into
Yeah.
this.
And then let's talk about the fact that the guaranteed analysis, which labels your proteins, your fats, your moisture, your the percentage of ash, guess what it doesn't label? It doesn't label the amount of carbohydrates in the food because they're not required to put it on there.
Hmm.
So most cat parents who turn that package around and they look at this guaranteed analysis and it says, protein 28%, and they're thinking that's good. What they don't see is that the
For
carbohydrate is probably 40 to 60%.
60%.
You know?
Yes.
And if they had that on the label, how many people would still buy that food? I mean, for those who are kind of health conscious, that read their own labels, that look at fats and carbs and, protein macros all the time, they might look at that and go, "What?
Yeah.
That's a lot of carbohydrates." So we have to go back to cats are carnivores. They're obligate carnivores. They can
Obligate.
process high carbohydrates in this kind of amount without
Ne-
having problems. So talk a little bit about the carbohydrate and how that's broken down, through the metabolism of pet food, of kibble.
Well, I'm going to start saying that there's a study that says that like 60% of cats suffer from pancreatitis.
Pancreatitis.
Okay, it's
I
going to
totally
be.
agree with that. I see a
Yeah.
lot of them.
Yes, there's a lot, but there some of them. This study actually did it on, euthanized cats
Mm,
and without symptoms, without
mm.
being that the cause of death.
Yes, yes.
So they found that, pancreas was always affected because of this of the diet. So we have to be aware that pancreas is the organ that actually does the work with the carbohydrates. But
Mhm,
it all starts in the mouth with
mhm,
the amylase that, carbohydrates have to be broken down into smaller carbohydrates to actually be able to absorb them, right?
mhm,
So when we give a food that it's full of carbohydrates, this isn't a human being, let's say, and you chew and you have to chew it very well before absorbing them, because otherwise that can give you some spikes of insulin levels. They can increase in insulin, or they can be absorbed, or feed the wrong bacteria. They can
mhm.
cause many things if we don't chew. So now let's say as a human we do have a lot of amylase, but carnivores don't,
Mhm.
especially cats. Cats have really just a few of those,
Tiny, tiny bit,
tiny amount,
tiny
yes.
bit. Yeah.
And then once it so if you feed in that, they are not chewing, because
Mm.
despite the size of the shape of the that thing,
The
it
pellet.
is it is a it is promoting mastication, but that's not true. That's not
Mhm,
true. The cat actually eats it all up, like swallows it up
mhm,
directly
mhm.
with no amylase. That the whole stomach and pancreas has to deal with that.
Yep.
You know, and it's a lot of effort for a small. The cat has a very small stomach, so it is a lot of work for that stomach. It is a lot of work for the insulin and, well, the pancreas that provides the insulin and
Mm-hmm.
tries to balance this hormones. It tries to balance the sugar in the blood, okay, the glucose, and this this is all every day, every single day, every single time your cat is eating, and you're letting the cat eat ad libitum whenever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening every single time. So the liver also, but the pancreas gets tired,
Yeah.
and then the liver has to deal with all the toxins that you are feeding it, right? So
Yeah.
when we talk about carbohydrates, the problem, the biggest issue that we have is that if carbohydrates are not, let's say, whole, like yeah, I think it's called whole, right? The ones that
Mhm.
are slow digested, this complex sugars that we
Yeah,
have.
the complex carbohydrates, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh those actually don't rise the insulin levels that fast. But usually, these products that we use, like corn or potatoes or any starch,
Mm-hmm.
actually rise the insulin levels a lot. So the body, it's constantly trying to absorb some glucose
Right.
all the time, because insulin, what does is it gives the cells sugar,
Mm-hmm.
because it believes that the body is asking for it. It also, it comes out all with signals. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
feeding a lot of sugar and there's a lot of insulin, then there is a lot of storaging of that glucose,
Yeah.
and the liver has to develop this, and actually cats are not efficient with actually storaging that glucose into glycogen. They are better actually breaking down the glucose than storaging them. So
Mm.
when for example, if that cat stops eating, then the liver goes crazy and
Mm.
is like, oh, I have to have to break down these carbohydrates, I don't know what to do with them. and and that happens, that's when lipidosis comes from.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we are looking at an animal that it's a carnivore, and a strict carnivore by nature, and
Mm-hmm.
we are creating a mess, just giving feeding carbohydrates. And I haven't got into the part that the microbiome in the gut, you know it also gets affected by the sugar,
There.
because there are bacteria that actually controls our mood, our
Mm.
behavior, and everything, that actually feeds from bacteria, from sugar.
Sugars.
If if and and if we actually allow this bacteria to grow and spread, we can have changes in mood, we can have problems in behavior. So um, I hope that all of that I'm saying is that we are aware that carbohydrates are not the evil ones, but it's not species appropriate.
Right.
It is for a carnivore that doesn't know what to do with that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not efficient.
Right.
So they have to build everything from an ingredient that doesn't fit.
Yep.
No,
That's not how they're biologically wired.
exactly,
We have to
exactly.
honor their biology. And I'll tell you guys a quick story. So I had a client many years ago who had a cat who was eating a processed pet food diet because she didn't know. And this cat had some genetic challenges that she had inherited with musculoskeletal issues, but she was always the grumpiest and hateful and just, didn't want to be touched, didn't want to play, was just gripey, grumpy, all like the grumpy cat. Okay. So we worked together to change her diet, put her on something much more species appropriate. And she sent me an email several weeks later and she goes, I have a new cat. I have never seen this cat before. She's happy, she's playing, she wants attention. I don't know where the old one went, but I like this. And it was because we changed her microbiome. She was eating
Exactly.
something that was making her grumpy, and it was affecting her mood, just the food that she was eating. And that was the first time I had connected the dots on the gut brain microbiome, superhighway thing. Like, wow, even nutrition can play a role in that. I thought it was fascinating.
Actually, we've been discussing this with a group that we do here, courses on nutrition, and the thing is that it is really well explained is when you try to have, I don't know, you have a gasoline car, and then you put diesel on the other way around. It's
Mm-hmm.
the fuel of your body. So if you don't put the right fuel into it, it's not going to work properly.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter from where, because I could keep talking. I could say many things about the acidity of the stomach. I can say about constipation, because constipation can also alter your mood.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to translate that into a cat, that it's supposed to be flexible, agile, you know, very they have to feel prepared for the next hunt, for the next, prey. And that is what actually a cat is. And by feeding carbohydrates, we are losing those cats, and they become more paranoid. They need more safe places. And then it's like, when they get into diet, I don't know if you've ever seen this is when I see more aggressive cats, is when they put a kibble in, like, uh, obesity kind of prescription diet,
Mm-hmm.
and these cats actually get aggressive because they are not being nurtured. They are not
Right.
being it's all full of carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, but
Mm-hmm.
still
Mm-hmm.
there's no meat in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's not anything species appropriate. So the cat is feeling hungry, anxious, and
Yeah.
aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's normal. I would be aggressive as well if you keep me that way.
True, because you're not getting good nourishment. You're not getting good nutrition.
Exactly.
Some
My
cats,
brain is
some cats don't. Some cats are always act like they're hungry, and I think part of the reason when they're eating this processed diet is because they're just not getting the protein that their body needs. So their carbs their body doesn't know what to do with. They're like, "Where's the meat? Honey, I'm
exactly.
hungry. Give me some meat." Some cats will
Totally.
balloon up, with diabetes and obesity issues, and they're constantly hungry all the time, and they're just not getting enough meat. They're not getting enough protein. We're
Exactly.
feeding them the
And
wrong thing.
and in all the carnivores in the nature, which carnivore has diabetes?
Right.
It's not a disease for a carnivore.
Yeah.
And,
Mm-mm.
and we actually accept that as normal. That's a problem.
It is a problem. It is a problem.
Somebody has to see the elephant in the room, please.
Right. No, it's true. It's true. I mean, I used to tell people when I first started trying to educate people about proper feline nutrition, and the analogy that I always used is, when have you ever seen a cat in the wild go to the local grocery store and buy a bag of kibble or a canned food? You
Exactly.
just don't. It's not going to happen. They eat fresh, they eat raw. That's what they're biologically wired to eat, designed to eat. That's what they like. If you
Yeah.
if you showed a cat in the wild a bag of kibble, they would probably go, "What is
What
that?
is this?
What is that? That's not food. Take it away."
Are you gonna eat that?
Because I'm not eating that.
I'm not even that.
It's just
Totally.
crazy. But you're right. Let's talk about some of the diseases that you've seen as a vet because of diet, and some of the things that can lead toward chronic illnesses and diseases because of processed diets.
Well, diseases I have seen many, and well, I can mention, because I would like to focus on those that are not so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen diabetes, I've
Mm-hmm.
seen kidney disease,
Yeah.
IBD,
Mm-hmm.
allergies, uh, even cystitis,
Yeah.
um, everything you can think of, even asthma. I have cats
Mhm.
with asthma that, when you change food, they get better. So any disease that it's control that it's chronic, that you don't find a solution, first look into diet.
Yeah.
Okay, but then there are some smaller things that I've been noticing now that I dedicated myself into nutrition consultations and stuff. I've noticed that there are cats with regurgitation, like too frequent, or
Mhm.
maybe vomit, or maybe they don't vomit every day, but sometimes, but you don't know where. It's kind of confusing.
Mhm.
I've been seeing a lot of it's like, I don't know how to say that in English. Okay, like you have low acidity in your stomach.
Mhm.
Hypochlorhydria could be the
Okay.
word. And it's instead of acidity, like when we have this reflux in
Mhm.
humans, it's the opposite.
Okay. Yep.
We have low acidity, then the food is not digested properly. It
Mhm.
goes to the intestines. It's not digested properly, so nothing gets absorbed. So
Mhm.
it creates this fermentation kind of bowl of food, and then this makes a huge growth of bacteria, and it's called these bacteria overgrowth.
Mhm.
And this sometimes the cat can live many years with this, and you won't notice many symptoms. But this can cause inflammation. This will cause inflammation. Then maybe you can have constipation. Then maybe you can have an anal gland that, it gets inflamed. Or maybe you get arthritis, or maybe you get some inflammation over there, and just the mites in the ear, all too frequent as well. You get this small sneezing, the how do you call this ones, the once it
Laryma,
gets, yeah,
tear duct, tear
tear,
duct.
yeah, tear duct. You can get small things
Mhm.
that, if they are chronic, they become chronic. Then you should start looking into nutrition, because those are really easy to make them go away.
Yeah.
You are on time there. You have time to change food and actually make them go away. But once you get a chronic disease, I haven't seen too many cancer patients. That's a good thing, at least here. Or maybe there's another specialist that they don't get into raw food at that stage. But the thing that I see the most are these cases of small things around the body, and
Mhm.
then kidney disease is one of the biggest
Yes.
winners, and IBD,
Mhm. And
then
IBD can lead
pancreas.
to, yeah, and IBD can lead to cancer, lymphoma,
Yes,
things like that. So
exactly,
it's like a stepping stone, you know?
exactly.
And I have a personal story to share. Just you mentioned the whole respiratory thing. One of my cats years ago who had herpes, he had this feline bronchitis thing. He would just, you know, and so I went to a couple of vets. One of them took some X-rays, put the X-rays up on the screen, and they were showing me his lungs, and it looked like he had just stuff in his lungs. I'm like, well, what do you do about that? And he's like, well, there's no cure for kitty bronchitis. You just have to manage it. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a cure. You just don't know what it is. I'm going to find it. And so I went home, and I took my cat off the dry food because I was feeding dry food. That was when I was feeding the organic, nice quality, thought I was doing a good thing. Took him off of dry food. That was about this probably around the same time that the other kitty had passed. His bronchitis cleared up 95% within days. Like he stopped coughing. I was
That's
That's a testament to the power of changing the diet right there.
And that's the also the power of protein that we
Yes.
hate so much. It seems like it's the enemy also of everything.
Mhm.
Um, it's not about the quantity of protein; it's about the quality of
Quality.
protein.
Mhm.
And the other thing about protein, it's what builds everything. So we need protein. That's why
Mhm.
it can cause us allergies because they're huge, they're prepared to build things up. So if you get the wrong one, or your immune system reacts to it, it's because it's a huge molecule. That's it.
Yep.
Right. And your body reacted for some reason. But protein is not a bad thing. It has to be the best quality that you can provide. And then when we talk about these diseases, like there are a virus involved, especially viruses, or maybe also uh, cell overgrowth like cancer, mm,
Mm-hmm.
protein actually doesn't feed those. It doesn't feed the viruses. It doesn't feed the cancer. It helps actually to maintain and sustain this type of diseases, and actually controls them. So
Right.
it's a good thing, because especially if it's a carnivore, because it's prepared to deal with that. It builds the strength that it needs, and the body can actually fight it. We had a discussion like on Monday, yes, with my friend, with another holistic vet. And we talked about, you know, why are we thinking that we are fixing diseases?
Mm.
Because we have this idea that we have to fix, this, that we have a symptom and we have to treat it. We have this organ failing, we have to treat it.
Mm.
The thing is that that's not correct. What we are doing, or we should be doing, is actually giving the tools to the body to heal itself.
Right.
And that's one of the things that nutrition does. If you give good quality of food, ingredients that and everything, it's well balanced, because it's not, oh, you're going to feed them wrong, they're going to die, because you know how long you have to feed bad your cat to get actually a problem, a disbalance, or he's not going to die if you do it for a month badly. Okay. But let's think about this, right? You are giving the best elements to your cat to actually help them heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things as a carnivore is protein and fat. But carbohydrates are not needed.
No.
If they were free, they were given the chance to choose, they wouldn't do that. They
No.
wouldn't choose them.
Mm-mm. And sugar, starches, carbohydrates feed diseases like cancer. So
Yes.
even more reason why, that is such a terrible thing to feed. If a cat has a lymphoma, a cancer, things like that, that just becomes more inflammatory. You're feeding the disease, you're feeding the condition. You're promoting more inflammation and giving it a fuel source to thrive. So,
Exactly.
you know, we gotta rethink. And that's why I love educating people on how powerful ingredients are. Um, and before we transition to just briefly giving people some tips on how to transition, I want to talk about another big elephant in the room when it comes to processed pet food, and that is genetically modified ingredients and GMOs and
Yeah.
glyphosate. Because if you look at your pet food bag, your cheaper pet food bag, even some of your premium bags that have legumes like lentils and peas and beans and things like that, if it says corn, if there's a corn product in there, if there's a wheat, if there's soy, soybean oil, canola, um, you can pretty much guarantee that there's going to be some glyphosate in that product and genetically modified ingredients. Um, think of think of it this way. If you were to go out and spray your yard with Roundup, would you spray the food that you eat with Roundup and then eat your food? Probably not. But that's what happens in processed pet food. They spray these crops covered with Roundup so that they can protect them from pests, and they genetically modify these crops so that they can be sprayed with large amounts of herbicides like Roundup. And then they harvest them. They go through this, they're processing. They sell them to pet food companies and rendering plants as fillers to put in pet foods. They are not required by law to test for glyphosate residue or remove things that have glyphosate. So there's a very good chance that your cat will have glyphosate residue in its tissues. which can be a horrible um, launch pad to things like cancer and lymphoma and IBD
Liver.
and the liver and just intestinal disease. I mean, you name
Mhm.
it.
Whatever you want, because it's a toxin.
Horrible. It's horrible.
Hyperthyroidism is a one that I forgot before, but it's
Mhm.
caused because of all these toxins. And about GMOs, there are people that are actually defended, but I'm in this idea of regenerative agriculture.
Yes.
I don't think that we need those, and I don't think we have to um,
Mm.
have this. We have to change also our mindset into this, because it's really hard now to buy things that are not GMO.
Yep.
So it's not about defending them. It's like we have to change our mindset and try
Yep.
to do something different. And well, there's going to be on September 24th. We are going to have, well, I'm now the junior vice president of the Raw Feeding Veterinary Society. There are some vets there, just look for them in the website, rfbs.info. You can put find a vet, and there's a vet worldwide. You can find it close, or maybe most of us work online. But you can find vets that are pro raw, and we are having this conference. And one of the topics that a guy from Chile,
Mm.
the actual president right now, is going to talk about glyphosate and mycotoxins in processed food. So
Wow.
he's going to go in detail what happens when they get into kibble. And there's going to be also Nicole Kamek. It's going to be well, I'm going to be talking about toxoplasma and parasitic infections in cats. So there's going to be a lot of things, all surrounded by the word "it's your food safe,"
Mm.
because we are always talking about raw, it's something dangerous, it's bad, or whatever. But then what happens with kibble? So we're going to discuss both topics, and it's a good thing it's online. And you can watch it. So if you like, just get into rfbs.info. I'll be the president in November and start. So it's going to be the year of the cat.
Yes. That's
Hey, finally.
awesome. That is so awesome. I will drop the link. I'll get the link from you. I'll put
Yeah.
it into the show notes so you guys can go look that up. I definitely want to check that out. And and I've been dying to find a vet to come on and talk about glyphosate. So maybe the three of
Oh,
us can do a roundtable and let's
yes.
talk about glyphosate. I'm just dying to dive into that because it's so important.
I'll let Christian know, and but he totally. I think he will love to. He
Ugh.
likes to talk in social media, so
Even better. But let's transition now just real briefly. Let's
yeah.
give people some tools, some tips on how they can transition their cat to a better diet. I know we had one question in here that said, what do you do if your cat just goes on a food strike because they won't eat the raw, they won't eat the cooked, you know. We have to admit cats are very, very finicky and they do not like change. So take it away. What do you suggest?
Okay. The first thing that, well, I can suggest, because we are just having a few minutes to talk about. We did with Julianne and Brendan. We did this RPM Feline Fridays, and we talked about a whole hour about transition. But
Oh, cool.
I'm going just to get into the bits of the important is behavior. First of all, address behavior. Is the cat feeling safe where it's sitting? I mean, it isn't the environment adequate. It's the bowl adequate. It's ceramic. It's a good material. It's comfortable for the cat. Um, how do you push? Because other things that I'm noticing is that people are so like, you have to eat this. This is the good thing for you, and we try to push it, and that energy is not
Mhm.
good to be to provide when we are trying to make a change. We
Mm.
need to make it more natural. We need to make it, say, okay, you don't want this. This is what we have. This, just make it smooth, make it easy. If you have to take a step back, just take a step back. Just, it's no problem with it. You are trying, and you have to keep, constant, be consistent, because cats, when they see it over and over and over again, they tend to change.
Mm-hmm.
If they're motivated, if they, for example, hunt a little bit, you play with them before you feed them something, they are motivated, this prey kind of thing, instinct that they have, and then they can just eat because they have this, like lifted spirit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then try to not make a huge change. Like, you can try just to put a little bit of meat and see what happens. Sometimes the miracle happens.
Yep.
But then if they eat meat, don't get too excited, because you might be taking a step back in the future. So just keep it simple, small, make it easy, and try to change first to wet food or freeze dry. If you need to keep the processed food, try to change that. Then add it. Then what I do is I put the kibble into toys, in interactive toys, so they have to play to get it, and then they get the easy canned food. And then I start make changing a little bit and adding a little bit of meat. And then I use some toppings on there, like a brewer's yeast, or maybe even Parmesan cheese if you want, whatever the cat likes, the taste that he's looking for, because the cat is addicted to whatever have the topping the kibble had.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to imitate that, mimic that, and make sure you are adding that into the new food that you're trying to settle. And then once you get it, you start slowly adding a little bit more and more. And don't be afraid to take a step back if the cat doesn't eat. But always look into behavior. Why is the cat being so rigid? Why is the cat being so uh, looking for safety nets? What I call it, it's like they are always looking for. I have to do the things the same way, because there is something that, you are not obsessive just because there is
Mm-hmm.
something going on. So try to look into their environment. Try to look. Behavior has been the best thing I to address when I'm having issues with transition. It's not the food. Okay.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, of
I have
course.
I work with a lot of, I'll call them sugar addicts,
Hmm.
because that's what they are. They're
Yes.
kibble addicts, which is sugar addicts. So one of the things that I've had a lot of success with is energy work, just energy clearing, like blocks to wet food. Like cats who are just like repulsed by wet food. They don't want to go near it. They're like, ugh,
Hmm.
you know. Um, and just breaking that, I guess it's kind of like cutting a cord, that
Yes.
energetic cord between the addiction, the obsessive behavior, emotion tied to that sugar, which can be an addiction. So energy work to clear those blocks has
Oh,
worked wonders in having them all of a sudden be more open and receptive to trying something that they have snubbed their nose up forever. So
wow.
it's
That's good.
very it's very exciting. I think it makes the transition process go from this long to this long. It's pretty wild. But I would also
Wow.
suggest to people, go at the cat's pace, because some cats will transition within days.
Yes.
I know somebody who's on here right now who never thought she would ever have her cats on Raw, and,
Hmm.
and they did it within a week. You know,
Yep.
other cats may take several months. Some cats are really, really stubborn and will make you hold out for a year. But it's
Yep.
really it's a war of attrition. Who's going to quit first? Don't quit on your cat. Okay. They will try
Yeah.
to wear you down, but don't give in.
Yes, exactly. And that will teach you a lot about life as well.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
it took me 6 months to transition one of my cats that actually passed away, but it took me 6 months to
Mhm.
transition. I was actually wearing out. It was so impossible because the other cat already was, it took 2 weeks to the other cat.
Yeah, you're
The
like,
other cat was,
"Woo!"
yeah. And the other was like, okay, come on. So I know the frustration. Try not to put it out there. Just, okay, my love, I just change it. But and
Yes.
also don't just change it because they're not eating it. Okay. But that was that is a suggestion, because how you react, the cat will also, you
Mhm.
know, try to manipulate you into that. It's
Mhm.
not manipulation, but
Mhm.
it is understandable that way.
Yep.
And so it is not impossible. Actually, you have to keep trying, keep asking, and you will learn a lot of things. If you try this, you're going to learn a lot of things about your cat, because even when you're saying this energy work,
Mhm.
this is also going to explain the environment the cat is, the energy that surrounding the cat,
Mhm.
and it can
Mhm.
also help you understand a little bit of yourself as well.
Absolutely.
Um, so always think, both sides. Just think about
Mhm.
everything and not focus into just nutrition.
Right. Those are good
Uh,
points. We had a question on here. Gamila Haji says, switched to raw at 5 years of age, but active cat is still chubby and has itchy skin. I would suggest food sensitivity, like maybe a protein, um,
yeah.
thyroid,
Well, yeah. Well, we have to look into
microbiome.
yeah, we have to look into the lab results and see if the
Mhm.
organs are working properly.
Mhm.
I wouldn't, even if you deworm your cat, I would look into that, because some parasites can be just, just one or two digging, bothering
Yep.
inside the gut and causing this inflammation thing. So we have to look, even if you find the eosinophils in the right reference levels, they might
Mm.
be increasing or they might be causing issues. So we have to look into very detailed
Blood
blood
work.
work that you have there. And
Mhm.
then, yes, of course, it's the microbiome, it's the inflammation, and the chubbiness, because because obesity is inflammatory.
Mm.
So you have to look into that.
Yeah, those are good
Also.
points. Those are good
Mhm.
points. Well, this has been awesome. I am
Yes.
so grateful. We're like a little bit over time, but do you have
Oh,
any
well.
final thoughts before we wrap it up? Any
Um,
words of advice?
Okay, about nutrition. The first thing is what I said before, is that is the fuel of our and your cat's body. It's an opportunity also to think about outside the box, and think about what you're doing with your cat, because your cat is going to put it difficult to you, most of them at least. But it's a process that, for me it's been a wild ride to transition my cat into raw feeding, and it also taught me many things about myself, the
Mhm.
time, the way I was communicating with my cat, the way that I became this worried mom, that it was like, oh my god, just eat it. But this was this wasn't only into the nutrition. Then I found out that nutrition taught me many other things that I was doing wrong.
Hmm.
So one of the things is enjoy every single time you have with your cat. Just understand, try to do it your best. If you don't do it your best, at least try
Mhm.
something, and the last thing is, we need to rethink where our food comes from, every single one. And we should not make a difference between human food and pet food. We are all beings, and we all need each other. That
True.
always.
And I always tell people if you wouldn't eat the food, I don't know that your cat should eat the food. You
Yeah,
know? It's like the
perfect.
stuff we put on our skin. If you wouldn't put those ingredients on your skin, then you probably shouldn't put them on your cat's skin. So
Right.
just yeah, something to think. It just like you said, it's looking at it from a different perspective. You know, how can we do better? Not everybody has the means to do a completely raw diet. We appreciate that more than you ever know. So you just
Hmm.
have to do the best you can with what you have. Even if it's changing 20% of your cat's bowl to something better, fresh, raw, toppers, anything that you can do to improve your cat's bowl is great.
Yeah.
And you take it one step at a time and let your cat lead the pace. Like you said, we get in
Exactly.
our own way. Just eat it.
Yeah.
They're like, no, no.
No,
What's wrong
no, he's
with
not eating. I just put the can in the fridge and now he's not eating it. It's like those things that usually come across like
it? It's so true. It's so true. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to put the link to the Raw
yeah,
Food Veterinary
yeah.
Society. Is that right?
Yes, you can put
rfvs.org. Mm-hmm.
rfbs.info.
.info. Okay.
Yeah, and then you will see that there are events and the Congress of this year, but there's a lot of information you can find the vet. I'll make sure next year it's going to be more cat related. And well, we are doing this interesting stuff.
Yeah,
And we hope to be able to go to the US at some point. That will be amazing.
that would
But
be awesome.
yeah, we're growing. We're growing. Just we
That's
need support.
amazing. Yes, absolutely. Well, again, thank you guys for taking the time out of your afternoon to join us. I hope you learned something. And please, please, please share these videos with people that you know would appreciate them, who need to learn, who might be struggling with issues with their cat, and who are just, the more we share, the more we can educate people, and when we know better, we can do better. So that's really the goal. So thank you so much for you guys watching and for your support, and I look forward to reconnecting with Dr. Espindola very, very soon in the near future. So
Yes,
thank you
me
guys,
too.
everybody.
Thank
Have
you
a
for
great rest of
inviting.
your day. Oh, you're so welcome. All right, we'll be back with y'all on another time. Have a great day.
Bye bye.